Hello, this is the Surviving Healthcare Podcast, and I have Frank Fitzpatrick here, who is an independent rancher and one of the most interesting people I've met in the last 2 years. We spent last Sunday with him, just to get a ranch tour because we buy his meat. And he was kind enough to invite us for lunch, and we spent all afternoon shooting the breeze and learning all about, his background and everything. So, Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice of you to have me.
All right. Now, you asked if you could wear your hat, so I decided that I need an image upgrade. I'm going to wear my sunglasses. What do you think about that? Is that okay with you?
Whatever floats your boat.
Okay, very cool. So Frank has been a rancher for 40 years plus, right, Frank? And yep. He has literally square miles of land which are devoted to grazing of these grass-fed cows, which he claims are not a lot of effort to keep up. But and they certainly don't need any veterinary care because they're out in the sun all day and eat whatever they want and do whatever they want. But every time I talk to him, he's busy with some project. He's working on his ranch, or he's out driving around in his pickup truck or something. So I don't think it's quite as easy as he says. But anyway, Frank, tell us about it. Go ahead.
Do you like it, or
you if you like it, you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
So tell us about your background and your history, and give us a little bit about your hero's journey.
My hero's journey. Okay.
Your hero's journey. You're 72?
5. This just clicked off.
Okay. Well, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just turned 75. I've been in the cow business for 45 years, I guess now. I guess the whole thing started, I wanted to be a cowboy on my 8th birthday. I mean, that's what my mom had a party for me over at my brother-in-law's place, and they had a ranch and they had cows and horses and all this other good stuff. And I was sitting at the table with my 8 candles on the cake and announced to everybody I wanted to be a cowboy. And basically, I haven't changed my mind. I hesitated a little bit, but I'm a little kid, just wanted to cowboys and Indians, I
guess. And so tell me how the whole thing progressed. I mean, this has been, how old were you when you first started ranching?
Well, 15, I think. I was a sophomore in high school, freshman in high school, and I took ag, and I took septic tanks by hand the summer before I started the high school, and I earned enough money, and I bought a calf with it, and this calf was $65. I mean, this was a long time ago. But anyway, I got this calf, and I joined the FFA, raised the calf. And I sold the calf, and I made a little money, and got just completely turned on. Merle Tobler, the ag teacher, was probably one of the greatest men. Turns out, in hindsight, he didn't know a hell of a lot about cows, but he knew a great deal about life, and he taught it to me. And it was fun, and it was exciting. My senior year in high school, I had 25 steers and 10 hogs and 2 sheep. And I never did like sheep, but don't like hogs either, better than sheep. But anyway, after high school, I did steer projects for 3 years there. I sold everything and went to cow college, I guess you'd call it. I got a BS in animal science and a BS in business, and rodeoed a lot. I loved to rope, and college was just a blast. We had a good time.
Where did you go to college, and where did you grow up?
College, San Luis Obispo.
San Luis Obispo.
Yeah, Cal Poly.
Yeah, Cal Poly. And did you ever bull ride?
One.
You did?
One, yeah. That was when I was about 12. But one was enough for me.
Yeah, it seems pretty dangerous. I mean,
That's
I
how
had a
much for me.
chance to do it, and I chickened out about 5 years ago. A friend of mine
You're
does it.
too damn old to do that at that age.
Way too old. Way too old.
Your bones break.
Yeah.
I don't even break colts anymore. I bought a horse here last year and he was broke to ride when I got him. That's the first horse I bought that with and ever, I guess.
So
Go ahead.
you gradually acquired some land or some backing, or how
No,
did it all evolve?
well, I would when I was going to college, I started working for ranches in the summertime. And I worked for about 17 different ranches over the next 4 or 5 years, mostly in Nevada and Eastern Oregon and Idaho. And my second best mentor, Newt Wright, um, was living in Idaho, and we had a mutual friend that had some Barzona cows, and we bought them. I'd made a little money in the real estate business. I bought 7 cows, and we started out running cows in Idaho. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm working for a living, and I'd sell a bull every once in a while. The main goal at that time of life was to sell range bulls. I had what I thought was the perfect animal to raise meat from conception to your plate on grass. And I had no idea at the time that grass-fed beef was good for you or that's good for the environment, whatever it was. But one of the projects I had in school was a feeds and feeding class, and we were balancing feedlot rations. And when I got done with this little exercise, at the time, my calculations, it took 8.2 pounds of grain to make a pound of beef. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, well, okay, to grow that 8 pounds of grain, you got to have a farming field, preferably with water. You got to plow it, you got to plant it, you got to weed it, fertilize it, wait for it to grow up, cover the crop, store it, crack it, roll it, steam it or cook it, and then feed it back to a cow. That really didn't seem to me like the best reaction for your money. When you could buy a cow, turn the damn thing out on the crop that you grew and have them eat it. So in the back of my mind was the conception of this concept of consumption to your plate on marginal feed. And at the time, the big thrust was that we're running cows on farm ground, and to feed the world, we were going to have to do some to have beef, which was the people all the area where you can't get a tractor. And after studying it quite a little bit more, it turns out that 70% of the agriculture in America is still growing corn to feed cows. They're still planting, cooking, and rolling, steaming. And feeding, this has got to be this absolutely ridiculous reaction when it takes more time. Okay, your average grass-fed animal that I've got is 30 months to 3 years old when I kill it to eat it. Okay, the average animal you're eating when you buy conventional meat in the store is 12 to 14 months. The reaction is quicker by at least a year. Okay, but like everything else, when you have natural reactions, you lose something. And what we didn't know at the time was you lost the fat. The 3 omega fatty acids that congregate in a cow are a sophisticated 20 carbon chain 3 omega fatty acid that happens to be our brain needs to live. And if we have enough to run your brain, then it'll coach your heart. And pretty soon, if you have enough, you've got enough 3 omega fatty acids to start using them for cell membranes in your body. A cell that is coated with 3 mega fatty acids is 40 times less permeable than a cell that's coated with corn oil. So if you want to get healthy real quick, just eat enough grass-fed beef to get the fat in you need to
So
supply.
let me just emphasize this for 1 second. What Frank just said is the central tenet of the modern dietary theory, and that is that the animal fats are less reactive and less inflammatory. They actually prevent heart disease and cancer and other inflammatory diseases. And you should avoid the corn oils and the synthetic oils, particularly things like Crisco that have been so heavily promoted by the dietary associations in the United States against our best interests. I mean, it's almost as if they did it on purpose. But what Frank is saying is that his product is even better than regular beef, which is much better than seed oils, which are the thing that are primarily consumed. It's 25% of our calories or some crazy thing. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Frank, but go ahead.
I forgot where I was, but basically the body runs on fat. If you eat a carbohydrate to get energy, you got to turn that carbohydrate into fat and then put the fat back in your bloodstream and burn it. So there's a cubic centimeter of carbohydrates and a cubic centimeter of fats, animal fats. The animal fat is 2.5 times more nutritious than the carbohydrate. And if you stop and packed carbohydrate on our body, we would be lumpy, bumpy, and about 2.2 times bigger. So it's not like the whole system runs on fat. There is no chemical reaction in the human body that requires a carbohydrate, period.
So I've only become aware of this recently. And so right now I'm buttering my steaks, eating a small amount of carbohydrate, and trying to get probably 50% of my calories that come from, 2/3 or 3/4 or more come from fat plus animal protein. And the rest is carbohydrates that aren't sugar, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, Weston Price wrote a book in the 1930s called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And he was a dentist. He got very well drilling keys and doing orthodontia for kids. But his idea was when he started out at the turn of the century, his job was fixing broken jaws and pulling teeth, repairing fist fight problems, and all the other stuff required dentistry. But nobody had cavities, nobody had narrow jaws. And by the time he retired, he had, I thought, 14 dentists working for him doing this stuff in Chicago. And he got really wealthy doing it. But the question was, what happened in my lifetime that went from nobody having cavities to everybody having cavities? And he searched with all this money he made. He went on a world cruise for many, many years and searched all over the world. And the healthiest people that he ever found on Earth were the Inuit Indians living north of the Arctic Circle, and they had an 85% fat diet.
Wow, I didn't realize that's incredible.
Okay, but the thing of it is you got to realize that if you eat a carbohydrate, it takes 2 molecules of water to digest the carbohydrate. If you eat a molecule of fat, it eliminates or produces molecules of water in the synthesis of fat. If you're an Inuit Indian, what is the most precious nutrient you got? And it's basically water because it's all frozen. You have to do something to the ice to get it to where you can drink it and consume it. So water being the most precious commodity north of the Arctic Circle, these people ate fat.
And he examined the teeth from multiple different indigenous tribes, and he thought that the fat consumption was the key variable. And he has photographs from probably the 30s of all these different people and perfect teeth. And since then, everything's deteriorated. I mean,
Yeah.
it's about 50
Cavities are caused by sugar.
and moving away from that animal fat and pushing towards the vegetable fats has just been terrible.
Well,
So,
no, the vegetable fats will kill you for another reason. I never had associating with the fact that they were bad for your teeth.
so Frank read Weston Price's original book, and he told me about that when we met. Frank, tell the audience about anything else you want to mention about Weston Price or the book.
Um, well, I'm not a fan of the Weston Price Foundation as such. They're both basically used car salesmen like everything else in the world, but the original knowledge created by Weston Price needs to be read, and everybody's going to extrapolate it into their own thoughts and ideas. I've done mine, and Sally Fallon has obviously done hers in another manner, but I don't think taking sugar and turn it into kombucha or any of these other fermented fruits is exactly a wonderful way of creating health. I mean, it's just like drinking alcohol. If you drink alcohol, you're just a sugar addict, because the minute you drink the eliminating the alcohol turns it into sugar, puts it in your bloodstream, and your brain uses most of it. So alcoholism and sugar addiction are the same thing. I recommend people that 70% of your diet should be meat and fat from ruminant.
And 50-50 calories for those two, correct?
What?
50-50 fat and 50-50 meat. And then
Well,
you've got some.
no, you can't get 50-50 fat and eating grass fed. They don't get that fat. A USDA choice steer is 50% fat. Okay, USDA prime steer is 60% fat. That's 60% of the total weight of the hanging carcass is fat. A third of that they completely throw away. Back to cows. It's actually a drug, the amount of it they got. The problem is it is mostly 6 omega fatty acids. There's very little CLA in it, and very little 3 omega acids, because they were eating grain. So grass, stem and leaf has linolenic acid. Okay, that's the green grass growing up sprouts with. Cow eats that damn thing, tears it off, rolls the ball, and swallows it. Now, the only nutrients that a cow gets out of seeds, when grass is going to seed, are when they actually bite it. In other words, if 2 molars mash a seed, you crack into the endosperm. Cow can use that for energy. Okay, otherwise, this thing goes down their stomach. Prawn, which is the little weak part attaching the seed to the stem, is a weak link. Most of it falls off, goes into the omasum, and it's just like a septic tank. The heavy solids go, regurgitate the cellulose back, reshoot the cud. The whole thing is absolutely fascinating. Why people spend their so much time, travel, money trying to prove on a perfect system. It's not even funny. You turn the damn things out. You don't give them any vaccines. You don't give them any hormones. If you got really deficient soil to start with, you can feed them minerals. Just turn the damn things out. When the beef gets fat, kill and eat them.
Frank, describe that ruminant stomach and describe the ungulates and which animals they are and why they're superior.
Okay, well, then a cow has 4 steps. There's a rumen, an omason, have an omasum reticulum. And basically, it's a really long, drawn out system that uses fermentation to break down cellulose. Now, a cow eating grass gets 0 benefit from eating the grass. Okay, there's no nutrient in cellulose, leaf, and stem that you can put in your body, any nutrient value of it all, nutrient value out of it at all. Okay. The bacteria in the stomach break it down, they eat it, the bacteria turn it into sugars, fat, protein, and send it back to the system. It lives on bacteria waste. So when you're in the cow business, you're not actually raising cows. The main job is to grow bacteria, mycorrhizal fungi, and other nutrients to heal the soil. The more you put back into the soil, the more you get back out of the beef.
So the land that you use is not used for anything else. The
No,
cow's great. What's that?
no, it's
And
just yeah.
I tell you, the thing I was surprised at was how the fact that these cows were not very densely populating the land I saw. I mean, how many we saw a couple dozen, and I saw many, many, many acres. I mean, we could within eye shot there was probably 100 acres or something, and or maybe
Well,
more.
more like 800, but
800.
never really had animals on.
Yeah. Were they hiding somewhere else? Or was that the
We
density
saw,
that you,
we saw what? We saw most of them.
yeah, that's you, they're just not very dense. And now Frank has other land up north. Are they more dense up there? I mean, it just
No.
seems it's just they just run around and do
The
whatever they want.
density has to do with there's when it rains, we have moisture making bacteria. We holistically plan graze that ground. In other words, we put a lot of animals on a very small space and move them around so that the plant is grass plant is actually getting to regrow without being bit a second time by the cow until it's high enough in the sigmoid curve that you're producing an abundance of grass from synthesis.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I went to visit Polyphase Farms, and it was clear that's what they were doing, is they had movable pasture fences, but I didn't see any fences on your property. How do you do it?
Well, yeah, with electric fences, we just don't do it when it's dry like that.
Oh, I see.
I do it because, okay, when I've got water, when it rains, I got stock tanks. I can put 17 to 20 pastures together on that ranch, the pastures. As soon as the is up, I can't do that anymore. When the day you were there, I got two sources of water on the ranch. Well, three, two good ones and one spring that'll actually water about 20 cows. But it's water. Okay, so the weak link is every 2 or 3 days they got to drink. All right. So if you can't get them there, I just turn them out and I start moving them with my supplements.
One of the most interesting things Frank told me was that just up east of where he was, there was an area that got 60 inches of water. And this is California, where, I mean, LA area probably averages 12 inches of water a year. So this has just been a phenomenal season. And so I guess that's enabled you to do a little better with your ranching operation. Is that correct?
Yes and no. It was really good in the beginning. We grew a lot of grass. We 70% of what we sold we got out by May and June. And then the grass dried up and we got a 3-inch storm just about the 1st of August. And that just wiped out my feed. 3 inches of rain on dry feed just turns it into popcorn.
So Frank was feeding pumpkins
Bell
uh,
peppers.
and peppers to these darn cows. And we saw some residual pumpkins that weren't squished, but apparently he has to run them over with a truck in order to get them to the condition that the cows can eat. So, I mean, he had like a truckloads of these things, and he'd get out there and run over some pumpkins every day, and the cows would chow down. And then a few days later, he'd do it again. So I guess there are options besides the natural feed for these things. And those are just sort of waste pumpkins because there was a big pumpkin season, right? You
Right.
obtain them very inexpensively.
Well, normally we get anywhere from 20 to 60,000 pounds, but that's a drop in the bucket thing. I just do because I like the guy. But um, normally I get about 1,000,000 pounds of cull bell peppers every year.
How many truckloads is that?
Shit, I don't know. Made a mistake.
So
I
tell
just,
me, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I just haul them till they're done. That's the job.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if I got more than they'll eat, I haul them anyway, because if I don't haul them, I don't get them. They want them gone.
So tell why other grass-fed beef is inferior to yours, and also tell why the feedlot beef is inferior. I mean, tell what the effects of the vaccines are. I mean, these freaking government agencies are pushing you to stick messenger RNA vaccines in the cows, and I mean, I don't know whether they can, whether we get some of this stuff when we eat them, or whether our GI tract protects us. That's the burning question that everybody seems to have. But go into that mess a little bit. I mean, it's Frank seems to have the best farm in California for this beef, and as long as you don't mind beef, it's a little tougher. I mean, the prices aren't bad at all, and he'll tell us at the end of the podcast how you can sample it or get some shipped, and he distributes to 3 different states. But I want to hear what your perception is of how your beef differs from the rest.
God, that where in the hell do you start? Um, the average feedlot cow going into feedlots got 22 to 28 vaccines in them to start with. Okay, and then they use, because grain is not a natural diet to a cow. You've got these animals in a constant state of sepsis. Okay, they're inflamed all the time. Um, the only function they have in life is eating. They're standing in their own shit, and they're producing a product that's 50% fat at the least coming out of these things. But the fat that's in them is mostly 6 omega fatty acids, and those are inflammatory. Now, there's no such thing as good fat and bad fat. Okay. 6 omega fatty acids are as essential to you as 3 omega fatty acids. It's the ratio that's important. Okay. If you've got 26 omega fatty acids in your diet and 1 3, okay, you're inflammatory by definition. You don't have enough 3 omega fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory, to put the fires out when you start. And that includes everything from divorce and death in the family to cutting your arm off. Okay. Those are all inflammations that your body reacts to.
Or cancer or heart disease.
All of it. Yeah. It's all, your body goes into mode of fixing whatever the problem is. And the problem is put 6 omega fatty acids in there, start a fire, track nutrients, and heal it. Now, when you're done healing it, you got some 3 omega fatty acids running around your bloodstream to go in there and put the fire out, spread the cold ashes out, make sure they're all dead, and then go on with life.
So can you go into what linoleic acid is? That's a vegetable product generally, and that's also inflammatory. And that's what we've been reading about lately.
Well, linolenic or linoleic.
Linoleic.
Isn't that the 3 omega fatty acid?
Well, I'm not sure, but we don't have to go into this if neither one of us is completely certain. But anyway,
I
that's what
think
we're
I'm
trying to
completely
avoid.
certain, but
No, that's okay. So tell us about the vaccines and how they might transmit to humans. Is there any evidence of that? Because that's everybody's fear, is they're going to get the darn
I don't know the answer
vaccines.
to that.
Yeah, there may
But I
not
do
be an
know
answer.
that they put things in them you don't want in your body.
Yeah,
Okay, they got aluminum in them, they got mercury in them, they got formaldehyde,
antibiotics.
damn thing. Uh, and basically, they don't do a very good job anyway. Okay, I mean, blackleg is the disease that my cows get that affect me if I don't vaccinate. So if I don't give a blackleg shot and I'm in a blackleg infested country with horned cows, I lose cattle to that. And I think I've lost about 24 in 44 years of running these cows. And if you stop back up and looked at what it took to administer all the vaccines plus buying them, yada, 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 I think I'm ahead not vaccinating. Just on the dollar, money and labor in, product out.
What is blackleg?
It's a Clostridium malignant edema. It's a serious disease that the first symptom is death. So when you see them, they're dead.
So Frank was telling me that when the cows are allowed to do their cow thing, they don't need veterinarians, which it kind of makes sense, but you've hardly any vet expenses at all in your whole operation, do you?
No, we spend more on the dogs and cats than we do on the cows. Um, that's because I live with a doctor.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, long story short, um, you got to start go back to the beginning. All right. The first thing you need to start out an environmentally friendly cattle business is start with the right cows. Okay. We've spent the last 120 years with these Angus cattle, breeding them to do extremely well in the feedlot. And the rules of genetics state that you can have anything, you can get anything you ask for if you select for it hard enough. The problem is you better damn sure want what you ask for because you're going to get it. And that's what we've got. We've got a black cow that's black skinned. She can't dissipate heat well. They don't do well in the sun. They gain a great deal of weight on grain in a feedlot with shade and water. It's extremely expensive to get that animal to the feedlot stage because she's not adapted to her environment. People spend billions of dollars on vaccines and tools and equipment and everything else. I know guys that got little carts that go on their four-wheelers to catch their animals so they can doctor them. If I see an animal if one of my animals gets sick, normally they're dead. I mean, I've been in the cattle business 44 years and have seen about 3 calves being born.
They run off and do it, don't they?
Yeah. But you've got to have an animal that's environmentally adaptable. I got red cows with horns, with slope and croops. These are all essential things that nobody realizes till you think about it. If you take the pelvis of an Angus cow, which she's really flat backed, you got a pelvis opening that's like this. If you put a 20-degree tilt on that pelvis, you got a space that a calf can pop out of easily. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I haven't lost animals to birthing problems, but I am going to tell you that I don't know about it.
That's amazing. Well, Frank, explain to the listeners the genetics. Frank has what he calls a closed herd. In other words, they were all bred off a few darn cows. And he described the process to me as harvesting the steers, not steers, harvesting the bulls, because he doesn't castrate any of them. And he harvests the bulls, and as long as those darn cows are dropping a calf every year, they get to enjoy their lives and run around the grass and chow down and do whatever they do with the bulls. But tell about the closed genetics, because that seems like to the naive observer to be a problem, because you get inbreeding and you get undesirable characteristics.
Well, the fear of genetics is about the same as the fear of vaccines. It's mostly good hype. Okay. The entire bull industry, boar industry, every industry that's raising animals has got a segment that raises males to breed the rest of them, and they're supposed to be better and faster, cheaper, and all that. That's all horseshit, but that's the way the package is sold. Okay, you can't inbreed because there's lethal genetic inheritable traits that will kill your cows. And that is absolutely true. The problem is the other side of the coin is by there's only two ways you can commingle genes to increase the heritability of a selection function. Okay. One is heterosis and the other is homozygosity. You can either bring two like animals together and breed them, which will increase your gene frequency for the things you're trying to accomplish. Or you can outcross, which is what the entire cow herd America does. They're trying to create hybrid vigor, and hybrid vigor works the first time. You take a black cow, put it on Hereford bull, and you get a 15% increase in calf the first year. Now, what do you do with that calf? Every time, in other words, the only way you can do heterosis is by having a closed herd of cows that are always bred to a bull. All the offspring die. You replace your cow herd. Anyway, most people just buy bulls and the things go downhill and they go, well, let's get another bull. So pretty soon you got a cow herd that's Heinz 57 varieties. You haven't done anything to increase the hybrid vigor. As a matter of fact, most of the time you've lost it completely. And it's expensive to boot. Now, if you're willing to absolutely kill an entire female line of cows out of your herd, you can get more pluck for your buck raising your own damn bulls and breeding them to, well, we got to talk about the traits. All right. Everybody in the cow business has got a program. Some got a 7-point program, some got a 9, some of them got a 8, and there's all these different breeding programs that you can subscribe to. I subscribe to the 2 method. I want a live calf that weighs a lot. I can only sell beef if you have a live animal and it weighs. Okay. So fertility and growth are the only 2 things I select for. Cow's got to have a calf every year, period. If you don't have a calf, I turn her into beef and I sell it to you.
So one of the, go ahead, sorry.
The other side of the coin is you select your bulls for growth. Okay, you put all your bulls in a corral every year and you go through and weigh them and you pick out whatever you need, 1, 2, 3, 4 extra herd bulls for the year. Whatever you need, you pick out the biggest masculine bulls you can find. Now, steers grow faster than bulls do, so you have to be really careful about, because your high gain bull is always a steer. I mean, he looks like
are castrated bulls.
yeah, but
yeah,
he's not pumping enough. He's not pumping enough testosterone.
right.
Okay, well that has growth inhibiting characteristics about it all the way down the line. But anyway, so I select the bulls for growth and the cows for fertility, and that's the breeding program. 44 years later, I've killed 14 cows for genetic problems. But I have a really nice herd of cows.
That you've been working on for 44 years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
How many head do you have total?
Somewhere between 600 and 700 head. I got a big place and I've got a couple hundred cattle I probably haven't seen in 2 years.
And these things, a third of them get turned over every year. Is that roughly it, or a quarter?
Well, we usually do 120 to 160 head a year.
How many years will these things drop calves once a year?
I got a lot of 21-year-old cows.
That's amazing.
Well, that's twice plus 1 year the national average.
And the way you described it, the bulls sort of selected themselves for who got to do all the breeding, so to speak. There was never the alpha guys get it.
4 herd bulls that probably breed about 85% of my cow herd.
It's a big
Okay.
job, Frank.
Yes.
For four
Somebody
herd
can do
bulls
it.
breed 600 cows. That's
No, I got about 600 or 700 head of animals. I only got about 240 or 50 head of cows.
oh, I see. Yeah.
This is a cycle, a 3-year cycle. So I've got cows and calves, I got yearlings, I got 2-year-olds, and then I got animals that I sell. This
Yeah.
is the tail wags the dog kind of a thing.
He was explaining to me how the whole thing revolves on productive cows. And if you can save the good ones, you end up with a herd. If you can't, why you don't? So,
I missed that one completely.
well, I was trying to conceptualize how you did it, and what you seem to be, you told me that you started out from a few cows and you save all the cows that are breeding and productive and dropping calves, and eventually you have a big herd.
Yep. And one for droughts and
Yeah.
depressions and plagues and other things, I'd have a whole lot of cows.
Well, it's a wild thing to think about the life you lead. And we did go into the barn to feed the horses, or we went into the hay pile or the hay storage place, but the rest of it is all pretty
Oh, the
much,
horse pasture.
yeah, the horse need alfalfa, don't they?
Yep. Well, that's what they get here. That I feed them green grass 4 or 5 months out of the year. I run them with the bulls, but
So how long has it been since you've been on a horse?
God, about 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was 6 years. So you do ride horses. We know we hung out in your pickup
6 weeks
truck.
ago, I branded calves for the neighbors.
Oh yeah, yeah. Crazy. Well, Frank's beef is, what is it? 5 bar beef? Is that it?
Exactly.
It's five like the number BAR
Number
beef
5 bar beef.
BEF. Yeah, yeah. And .com. And he's got all the information there about how to buy it. And we we've just been chowing down on it. I think it's wonderful. My wife does use a pressure cooker because we don't get absolutely the best cuts because they're more expensive. And I've been super happy with the hamburger. The amazing thing about your wife's cooking was she did the same thing that McDonald's did before 1965. She put French fries in beef tallow. And apparently you don't sell that, unfortunately. We may have to come over and beg some or something, because that stuff is fabulous. And those French fries, they're guilt free. They were potatoes and animal fat, weren't they?
Skin on them.
Skin on the potatoes too. And so we went home with enough to eat the next day too. But I was very happy with the hamburgers, and they just taste distinctly more interesting and meaty than the other hamburgers you buy in the store, which are
It's like
fattier.
beef, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it tastes like real beef.
You know
And
what gets me is I have been known to eat a hamburger in town once in a while. And the problem with eating meat in town is I always get a metallic aftertaste to it.
it's
I
weird.
don't know exactly what it is, but it's not beefy.
Might be the mercury. Who knows? The
I've got,
rumor started here, right? Uh, but
tell you what happens to me. It is there's an aftertaste to store-bought beef that I don't like. Lisa won't eat it.
well, if you don't have to eat it, you should never eat it.
Yeah, but I mean, I went to a big fancy dinner the night before last, and they had prime rib, and I ate a big bunch of it.
It's hard to resist. Um, so, so you can or you can't sell tallow?
Can't, not a
Can't,
license. No.
because that is it's
Manufactured product.
manufactured product, and you're selling, and you sell the whole darn half a cow, and then you contract separately for the butcher, who you arrange all that, but that's the way you can do it and chop it up and sell it to your
Yeah,
customers.
the bulk of my business is selling wholes and halves. I'm trying to build a business where people, well, I'm got people now, they see carnival people, some are running 2 head a year. Uh, which is getting, I mean, I'm 25 head of cattle behind in sales right now. I've got 3 head here that are not sold. and probably 10 or 14 on the ranch that I could probably get. So I'm pretty well out of the whole and half business for the year. I mean, you can still go to the website and buy one, but it'll be gone in a month or 6 weeks at the most. I butchered about 20 head this year and had them processed at a USDA plant, and I got about 8,000 pounds of meat out of that, which I'm selling, and you can buy online at fivebarbeef.com. Just go to the ranch shop and we'll hook you up.
The hamburger is far cheaper, which I was very happy with that. Frank, how many like fillets? There's only in a half a cow. How many pounds of really the highest, most desirable cuts are there?
Well, there's about a fillet weighs about 8 pounds on a cow, and it's the only muscle on a cow, I think, besides the liver, that there's only one of. So your psoas muscle is your fillet. And in a human being, it's the toughest muscle that you use because it's keeping you standing upright. A cow that's on her back, the muscle doesn't get used. It's the tenderest piece of meat on the cow. It's got less flavonoids. It's less flavorful. I don't think it's as nutritious. For 30 years before I started selling meat, I always ground it. I like flat irons, ribeyes, and the Yorks. And there's about 20% steaks on the cow, about 30% roast, and the other half is ground beef and tallow.
How big a freezer do you need to buy
About
half a
14
cow?
cubic foot.
14 cubic feet, and that's the standard freezer,
No, yeah, that's a standard size.
standard size.
Yeah, you can put 420 pounds of meat in boxes in a 14 cubic foot freezer. But there ain't a woman alive that wants a freezer that's just beef. You gotta give them 100 pounds of room for fish and chicken and bird's eye frozen vegetables.
So,
Of all the frozen veggie people, I like bird's eye the best.
yeah, I don't know. I eat whatever my wife puts in front of me.
Well, bird's eye was the guy that invented flash freezing. He was in an Arctic storm, and the water he was walking through froze, and the ice crystals were about 10% of the size of the ones that froze around him. And for some reason, he noticed this, and he went back home and decided, okay, if these ice crystals are smaller, why can't I freeze vegetables at 30 below zero and not break the cell range in the meat or the vegetable and package and sell them frozen? He's the guy that invented flash freezing. Is a joke.
Wow. So it
What
doesn't
you
make
talk
any
about
difference.
cold freezing? When the temperature, when whatever you're freezing, the piece of corn, whatever it is, when it hits the cold temperature, if it's 30 below, it freezes in a very small crystal. It doesn't break the cell membranes, and everybody's happy with it. If you freeze the damn thing at 28 to zero, you get big crystals and you end up getting mush. But it's not flash, okay? If you put 1,600 pounds of meat in a 30 below freezer, it takes 3 days to freeze it,
Wow.
okay? But it's 30 below zero when you take it back out.
So Frank, does your wife use pressure cookers? Is that
Yeah. We use
yes?
sous vide machines, pressure
Oh
cookers,
yeah, yeah.
Instapot,
Those just cook the darn thing for 8 hours or something, 6 to 8 hours or something, maybe even overnight, right?
sous vide machine.
Yeah.
Oh, we take rump roast and put it in there for 2.5 days.
Oh my gosh.
Work
And
it
that's
out
a low temperature, relatively low temperature. It's not very
130
hot.
degrees.
130 degrees. Isn't that something?
You're breaking down the connective tissue.
Yeah, boy, those are really sweet. To
Oh yeah,
yeah, I've eaten that stuff. SOUVE, is that it?
yeah. I think
And you bought them online or something,
yeah,
probably.
they're cheap, $100.
Yeah.
Plug
Well,
them in. Well, I mean, you got to have a pot, but
nice.
it's like a outboard motor, you take this thing, you screw it on the side, it's got a little fan that pushes the
Water
water
around.
and the heating element on top, and it heats it to a specific temperature. And surveyed. It was invented to break down human connective tissue for pharmaceutical research.
Gosh.
Some Frenchman did it, called it sous vide, and turns out it's the way to eat beef.
Yeah, yeah. It's wonderful. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. We've used a pressure cooker. Are there disadvantages of it subjecting the beef to such high temperatures as a pressure cooker can, or not?
Yeah.
So you're
Okay.
better off with a sous vide machine.
Yeah. The all of the dark brown meat that you ever ate in your whole life was devoid of B12. Okay. The only meat that you ever ate that had B12 intact molecules in it was the red part.
Really. So that's why you eat it medium rare.
No, you eat it rare.
Rare. Rare is bloody and cold in the middle. That's too much for
Well, it's
me.
not bloody, but it's got myoglobin in it, but which is a constituent of blood, I guess. But uh it's also really tasty. Them juicy steaks are just plain ass good.
Well, I've got my wife has some of your hamburgers cooked, and I think when we sign off, I'm gonna go in the other room, and chow down on a few, and microwave them. So
Don't microwave them.
why not?
Oh God. Okay. Just told you a minute ago, the brown part of the meat doesn't have any B12 in it.
Right?
Okay. If you put any kind of meat in a microwave, so the IRAs hit the outside of something, they're turning it brown. It cooks it from the outside in. Microwaves cook everything from the inside out. 15 seconds in a microwave, and you cut 85% of the carboxyl groups off of every vitamin B molecule in a piece of steak. Take your microwave and throw it away.
Well, it certainly is like a radiant EMF thing, and you got to stay away from it too. That's another problem.
Well, it
Well,
doesn't.
go ahead.
I mean, everybody told me for years, don't eat microwave food. And I didn't. We don't own a microwave. And but I never could get anybody to explain why. And I'm, one of them old school people. You gotta get down to the science with me. You gotta prove it. Okay. And Grady Knight did it. And and it was absolutely nonchalant. I mean, I've been asking thousands of smart people for years why you don't microwave meat. And he says it's real simple. The infrared waves that go through the meat cut the carboxyl groups off the B12. You absolutely cannot microwave meat ever.
So
I'm not
that's
sure you can do it with water.
That's a mechanistic argument, and it only concerns one vitamin which you can obtain elsewhere. But
Bullshit.
well, I mean, I guess it's all beef products, and there's oral source of B12 that you can take as supplements if you want.
Well, if you just learn to cook, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably not the only. If it does that to the B12 that he knew about, there might be other things wrong with it that are not good either.
There might be. Yeah.
Well, there's people that are doing tests now on water, and the Brownian movement of water changes after you've microwaved it, and they don't know whether it's good for you or bad for you, but it changes.
Right. I understand. I view arguments like that, conceptual arguments or mechanistic arguments, as uncertain, and questionable. So that, it's interesting, and it certainly makes sense that a microwave might not be the most natural thing for your food. But unless there's more analysis with evidence, it's hard for me to swallow. Or, you
got Grady Knight up, he'll tell you all about it.
Okay. Well, that'd be great.
That's the smartest chemist I ever ran into.
Frank, what else is on your list to talk about today? Is there anything you want to bring up that we haven't covered?
Yeah, a few. Okay, I sell what I call natural beef. Uh, it's not even close to what's labeled natural beef. Um, in Southern California, about 80% of the grass-fed beef that comes into the LA basin isn't even grass-fed. There's a feedlot in Bakersfield that feeds carrots. They're not the only people on the planet that feed carrots, but the USDA has decided that a natural carrots are natural products, so you can get certified natural beef from feeding carrots to cows in a feedlot. So most of the grass-fed beef salesmen buy this shit and repackage it, put their label on it, call it grass-fed, because the fat's yellow. Okay, if you've been feeding the cow carrots, you get orange and yellow fat out of them like you would out of a really good grass-fed animal. That's number one. Number two, um, the intactness of the animal has, in my opinion, nutrient value. If you cut a steer, not to castrate him, take up his testicles, you lose 70% of the production of testosterone in his body for the rest of his life. Okay, now we get Zenbotics from walking around on petrochemical carpeted floors. We eat a lot of soybeans that are pumping estrogen into our system, and we're eating steer beef. And not testosterone, sperm count from 1940 to 2019 has dropped 40% in American males. And I think a lot of it is the fact that we're not eating natural foods that are really natural, intact animals that have been fed an exclusive natural diet to get the natural ingredients out of it. Now, pigs have another set, chickens have another set. The big denunciation for the beef is the 3 omega fatty acids. Because my opinion, that's what we evolved on, was eating antelopes 3.5 million years ago. And I think it's the ability to synthesize the 3 omega fatty acid that gave us the big brain, and it's not our opposing thumb.
I guess I'll just draw this one last point, and that is that you're much better off with beef or um,
Yeah.
sheep or
So,
bison or other ungulates, right? Which would be some of the game animals
yeah,
with the multiple stomachs who are herbivores.
right.
Even if they are feedlot raised, you're better off with those than you are with the vegetable diet or
Oh,
all the
yeah.
crazy synthetics and packaged food that that are 80 or 90% of the standard grocery store. So I'm sure your stuff's better. It's hard to characterize exactly how and why, and the B12 argument is convincing, but there's got to be more to it. And
There is, but
yeah,
the problem is we just don't know yet.
yeah.
I mean, we're still working on 74 minerals, 14 vitamins, 3 fatty acids, and 22 protein molecules. And we got no idea. I mean, if you keep breaking the atom down, you get subatomic particles. We're now getting the subatomic particles of the subatomic particles. In other words, God knows how deep this goes and how changing one thing in the food chain to make it faster, cheaper, and better is upsetting the cart at the other end. I mean, who knew that sugar and flour was going to turn us all into a bunch of wimps?
Well, there's a lot of other factors. Well, Frank, any last words before we sign off? Again, it's 5 the numeral
The number 5, Barbie,
BARBEEF.com. And which states you ship to? Nevada, California, and
California, Nevada, Arizona, Oregon.
Oregon. Very cool. And the shipping costs are $30 for a
I've
$35 for
just
a
raised my rates last week.
standard box. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 by 12 by 12. It costs
And
me $38 to get it to you. So
yeah,
it's,
yeah. And
it's a bundle.
the hamburger is cheaper, which I'm sticking with the hamburger. I think my wife got some other stuff, but so we'll try it out.
Right.
I'm grateful for your time. Any other last words?
No, thank you very much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Most of them are not from California or this area, but I'm sure you'll get some orders. Thanks again, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye now.